Welcome back, my lovelies, as we take a look at why people are wrong about Space Jam: A New Legacy. Subscribe if you want a pizza roll. Part 2. Space Jam 2. The second part.
So Dom and LeBron walk around in the room with all the hard drives and the computers, right? Dom gets sucked into this ball, this generic-looking ball thing, and then LeBron goes in there, right? Their argument they have when they're walking around, he's trying to find his son. It's a little bit lame, some of the dialogue. Like when LeBron says, your mom's going to kill me if you get lost, and we got to get home on time. That was kind of lame, that line was just meh. Two things that bother me about this scene, and it's an okay scene, it's okay, but what does bother me is that, let's talk about these computers like the secret room, right? It's cool that they came up with that, but why do the computers have to look like regular computers in our real world? I mean, this is like a super secret room, right, in the basement of Warner Brothers, with these like secret high-tech computers, right? So couldn't they look creative looking and different? Why do they have to look like just generic computers you'd find in a real warehouse or at frickin' Best Buy? They should look like futuristic and secret looking and have like the Warner Brothers logo on them or something. That would have been way better looking visually than just them walking around with these like black towers, and it's like, come on, yes. Like, just make it a little more creative. When LeBron and Dom get sucked into like this ball thing, digitized thing or whatever, and it's sort of a minor complaint, but it also isn't exactly, but I guess it kind of is. I don't know. I didn't really like the way it looked. I know it's kind of minor, but it just looks so generic. It just seemed like they worked really hard on everything else in the film except for this moment with the ball thing. I mean, what even is that? Like, why can't it look something better than that? That's what you came up with? And it's all like dark and everything. Like, why can't it have some color? It's just, I don't know. It's like way too generic. The thing that sucks them in. Come on, guys. You can do better than that. So now LeBron and Dom are walking around in the digitized realm. And it looks really cool looking. I like the room that they're in. It's got good color. It's interesting. It feels slightly lazy, but that's kind of a minor complaint because the rest of the film is not lazy. It's very creative. But we're getting there, right? Algae Rhythm shows up. He does a parody of Oz from The Wizard of Oz with the fire and everything, which is kind of a cool reference because I think Warner Brothers owns The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, they do, because LeBron goes past the Oz planet later. Then we have Algae Rhythm talking to the two of them, the boys, and I think the dialogue, for the most part, is done well. It's interesting. I think they do a good job of showing the differences between the mindset of Algae Rhythm, Dom, and LeBron. And it builds up the story. Dom disappears and all that. Now, here's another minor complaint. Again, guys, these are minor. There's minor things about the film that are a little bit off, but that doesn't make it bad, a bad movie. These are minor complaints. Anyway, I'm not the biggest fan of silver jacket he wears in this scene. At first I thought it was kind of cool because he is, a silver jacket is kind of futuristic looking, sort of. It kind of reminds me of the Chrome world they go to in the future in SpongeBob. Future! Anyway, where everything's chrome. What bothers me about it, though, is that he just looks like he's just some guy on the street, walking around, like going to a club or walking around in New York City. It's like, you're this creative digital villain. He could have a silver jacket, but how come his jacket doesn't look futuristic looking or cooler? He's just wearing jeans. It's just, no, it's like, I don't like it. He should be wearing like some weird outfit, and weirder than that, it's not good enough that he's wearing a silver jacket. Come on. He should have like just something really unique as a costume or something like that, where it makes him intimidating to LeBron and Dom, and he should look cooler than that. I mean, what villain walks around in just sneakers, jeans, and a jacket? Really, guys? Come on now. There's a great moment where we get to see the jealousy that Algae has with LeBron, where he raises how tall he is. And Algae Rhythm mocks LeBron, and he says, I thought you'd be taller. I thought that was cool. It was a really cool little moment. Now it's time for me to talk about one of the most interesting things about this movie, is the religious symbolism. Dom is basically Jesus, Christ. His father, LeBron, is God. And Algae Rhythm is the devil. This film is basically a remake of the story in the Bible where Jesus is in the desert and he has to decide if he's going to stick with God or the devil. And the devil like tempts him to giving him riches and everything, and Jesus denies the devil. That's what this film is doing with these three characters. Dom is the chosen one. He's the one that created Dom Ball, and especially to God and the devil, he's the chosen one also. Or LeBron and Algae Rhythm. So I find that interesting. And also, LeBron in this film, he's called the king, right? Like God. God is the king of kings, you know? Well, that's Jesus, but you know what I mean. Dom is the son of LeBron. So it's like God and Jesus, you know? And Algae Rhythm is the devil. He acts like the devil in the film, and he's jealous of LeBron. Just like how the devil is jealous of God. It's all there. It's pretty interesting. And the original Space Jam actually has some religious symbolism also. I'll quickly talk about what it is in the original. In the original, the little aliens, of course, the Nerdlucks, transform into the deadly, monstrous monsters. I think it's supposed to be like the Anunnaki in the Bible. They talk about the great giants that walked upon the earth in the book of Genesis. I think that's what the monsters are supposed to be in Space Jam. Anyway, this scene sets up the stakes for the basketball game they're going to have later in the film. While the big game in the original Space Jam film was a big deal in the plot of that movie, the big game in the sequel is amped up. Like, there's more stakes to it because, you know, later on, Algae kidnaps people from the world and the world could be destroyed, or like Algae Rhythm's going to take over all of the internet, and the Looney Tunes could be deleted and all that stuff. That's higher stakes than the stakes for the original. Like in the original, the basic threat was that the Looney Tunes are going to become slaves to Moron Mountain, but they weren't going to get deleted. But in this film, the Looney Tunes could die, basically, if they lose this game. And that's a big deal. That's more terrorizing. It's a bigger threat to the Looney Tunes. So the stakes are higher in this movie for the big game. So it's a little bit of an improvement over the original, I would say. Then Algae says, Pete, send this guy to the rejects. And then Pete pulls this lever and it says Toon World, and LeBron falls through the floor. It's meant to mirror how Jordan got sucked into the golf hole. It's very important to talk about what Algae just said. Send this guy to the rejects. That's right. See, something this film doesn't explain, and it should, because I think it would help people realize how good the film is. You see, Algae hates the Looney Tunes. He rejects them. He views them as being losers. Because Looney Tunes these days, you know how they're not that popular, like how they used to be in the 90s? Well, Algae is an algorithm, right? And he sees this about the Looney Tunes. He does not care about trying to help the Looney Tunes become popular again. He views them as being old-fashioned, outdated, and out of touch with modern day. So that's why he's the villain to the Looney Tunes, basically. He rejects them. And he doesn't do anything with them as the algorithm to Warner Brothers. He does stuff with all the other projects of Warner Brothers, like all the other planets, but the Looney Tunes, he rejects them. And that's why later on in the film, well, not later, but earlier in the film, and they explain it later, how Algae separated all Looney Tunes to go to different planets. Because that is his way of trying to make the Looney Tunes popular again, is if he puts the Looney Tunes in other things that are more popular than them. Like The Matrix, or freaking Mad Max or something. This makes him more of an enemy to the Looney Tunes than Swackhammer ever was. So, it's a good character development. And I wish they explained that in the movie, but they don't. It's like heavily implied. And I really enjoy this rivalry that the Tunes have with Algae Rhythm. Like, the Tunes don't want to reject who they are. They want to stay loony. But Algae convinces them to leave and separate as a family. And it's sad. Some people who reviewed this film rejected or didn't like the notion of the Looney Tunes being viewed as a family. And it's true, if you're strictly viewing just the old Looney Tunes cartoons from like the 40s and 50s and whatever, back then they weren't a family. But the Looney Tunes have done stuff later on in their characters that they had together where they were forced to become a family. Like in the original Space Jam, the reason why, to me, it's the ultimate Looney Tunes movie is because the Looney Tunes were all forced to team up against foes that were more powerful than they are, the Monstars. So in that first original Space Jam film, they do become a family throughout the film. Especially the original Space Jam, it just goes to show that there's more to the Looney Tunes than just them hitting each other all the time. They actually have some affection for one another. And we even saw that in the old school Looney Tunes cartoons, so it's like whatever. It's nostalgic to us to view the Looney Tunes as a family because for all those who grew up with them, we always got to see them as a group in the merchandise and everything, and the toys and the ads and everything. And they're all relatable to one another because they're all loony. Since they all have things in common with one another, they are like a family, pretty much. It's cool that this film really shows more of that being a real thing. It's interesting. They're a dysfunctional family, and we all have that, right? The only difference is that the Looney Tunes are not embarrassed to be dysfunctional. They embrace it, and they basically can't do anything about it because that's who they are, and they love it.